Welcome to this midweek message. Today, I would love to share a word with you about the chosen. And I'm not going to talk about the chosen, this multi-season TV series about the life of Jesus Christ and his disciples. Those are not the chosens that I want to talk about. What I want to talk to you about today is about the true chosen, which are you and me. Yes, we are the chosen people of Yahweh. With the difficulties of this life, all the noise around us, and the activities in our day-to-day that is growing in speed by the minute, we tend to forget about our true identity. We so focus in our activities in our day-to-day that we tend to forget. We forget about our identity, that we are the chosen ones of Yahweh. It's so interesting that even in our times, just a few weeks ago, there was so much discussion about the chosen people. In mainstream media, everybody talking about the chosen people in reference to the country in the Middle East, in reference to the people of the country in the Middle East. And we entertain ourselves in these discussions, we entertain ourselves in listening to these discussions, but we forget that we are the chosen people of Yahweh. And we don't even remember sometimes that moment in time when we decided to believe. That moment in time when something happened within us. And we decided to believe that there is a true Elohim, a creator, the maker of the heavens and the earth. We forget that moment in time where we decided to believe that He sent His Son to this world in order to die for our sins and to give us an opportunity to be a chosen one, to enter into His covenant. We put our mind and our focus in our day-to-day activities, and we forget those moments of decisions that were so special. It was the moment when we decided to believe. And when we remember that time, and when we remember that calling, when we remember that we are a chosen one, sometimes it's difficult to understand what happened with me. Why I believed. Why me and not other? We see other people around us that maybe it's so hard for them to believe, and we ask ourselves internally, why? What happened to me? Why I was able to believe? And the answer to that is in the words of Yahushua. And I want to share this passage with you, but as I read it, I want you to close your eyes and imagine that is Yahushua speaking to you directly these words. Because even though that He was speaking to the people present with Him at that moment in time, that words are also spoken to you directly by Him. And this is in the book of John, Yahohanan, chapter 15, verse 16. And it says the following: "You did not choose me, but I chose you." It wasn't our decision. He Himself chose you and me. We are His chosen people. And the only reason that something happened that we cannot explain, why in that moment in time we decided to believe, is because He called us. He called us to His ways. He was the one awakening us to our true identity as a chosen one. And it's so beautiful to see is that Yahushua, what he was doing was exactly we see Yahuwah doing with Israel in the past. And we see this so beautifully mentioned in the book of Devarim, chapter 7, when Yahuwah said the following in the chapter 7, verse 6. For you are a set apart people to Yahuwah, your Elohim. Yahuwah, your Elohim, has chosen you to be a people for himself, a treasured possession above all the peoples on the face of the earth. He was the one choosing you and me. He saw something in you and me. He was the one creating you and me. And he saw something inside of us that pushed him to decide to choose you. And this is so beautiful because at the end we can understand that it's not about us, it's not about me, it's not about you, it's about him. It wasn't our decision to be called by him. It was his decision, the decision and the desire of his heart to call you by your name and to give you and to give me an opportunity to be part of his chosen people. And when we talk about a chosen people, and this is something that even when people discuss about the chosen people, don't even talk about and don't even realize about, and this is something that we need to remember too, is that if we have been chosen by him, it's because of a purpose. We have been chosen for a purpose. And we need to remember that calling. It's because if he called us by our names, it's because he has a calling for each one of us. He has a purpose for each one of us. And the first instance we see this purpose being portrayed in the scriptures, are being described in the scriptures, is in the book of Exodus, in the book of Shemot, chapter 19, verse 5 and 6. And it says the following. And now, if you diligently obey my voice and shall guard my covenant, then you shall be my treasured possession above all the peoples, for all the earth is mine. He is setting us apart, taking us out of the world in order to be his people, but with a condition to be his people. Our obedience to his voice, to his covenant, and if we do that, we are going to be his chosen people. We will be his treasured possession. Even though that he is the owner of all the earth, we are going to be his treasured possession. And it says, and you shall be to me a kingdom, a reign of priests, and a set apart nation. Those are the words which you are to speak to the children of Israel. He has been calling us with that purpose to be priests. What a priest does, teaches, is a mediator between Elohim and the people, is the one knowing the words of Elohim and instructing the people in the words of Elohim, is the one knowing the way of Elohim, the path of Yahuwah, and leading the people in that path of righteousness and in the path and way of life. That's our calling. We see this being fulfilled in the lives of the disciples, the ones that were receiving the audible voice of Yahushua calling them by their names, being instructed by Yahushua, and then going to the world in order to lead the world in the way of righteousness. That's our calling. That's what it means to be a priest to Yahuwah. And you have been chosen, as well as me, to be a priest, to fulfill that calling, of leading the people in the way of righteousness. And Yahushua HaMashiach himself, when he was speaking in the same passage in the book of John, Yehohanan, he continued saying a beautiful truth about what's the purpose of our calling. So it says in the chapter 15, 16, "You did not choose me, but I chose you." And listen to this. "And appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should remain, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he might give you." He has called us, and he has assigned to us to go where? To go to the world. That's what he said to this disciple. Go to the world and to do what? To bear fruit. We are like trees, that we need to bear the fruits of the Ruach of Elohim. And what's going to happen with the fruit? A fruit tree, in the fruits, is bringing seed. That seed will fall into the soil, into the ground, and a new tree will come up. It will grow with more fruits. So the intention of Yahushua being commanded by the Father is to multiply the trees of righteousness here in this world. And he has appointed us. He has called you and me as a chosen people to go into the world and bear those fruits in order to multiply that fruits on the earth and the righteousness on the earth. We are created in the likeness and image of Yahuwah, the Elohim. He is that tree, and he wants to replicate himself in us and to fill this world with trees of righteousness. We need to ask ourselves if we are fulfilling that calling. We need to remind ourselves that this is the purpose of being a chosen people. Those are the true chosen people, those ones being called by Yahushua himself in order to go and bear fruit. It is so beautifully mentioned in the book of Psalms. This is the Psalms chapter 1. The following: "Blessed is the man who shall not walk in the counsel of the wrong, and shall not stand in the path of sinner, and shall not sit in the seat of scoffer. But his delight is in the Torah of Yahuwah, and he meditates in his Torah day and night. For he shall be as a tree planted by the rivers of water, that yields its fruit in its season, and whose leaf does not wither, and whatever he does prosper." We need to be those trees that are being planted by the river. We are going to bring the fruits in due season. We should not be anxious. We should not be impatient. The fruits, if we follow and we are planted in the river, and if we are obedient to the covenant and the voice of Yahuwah, we are going to bear those fruits. And if we go to the world, those fruits are going to produce more seed and more trees. There's something that sometimes we question ourselves: how come he decided to choose me? You know, I'm full of flaws, mistakes, and so many things that I struggled in life. How come I can be a chosen one? And it's so beautiful to remember is that it wasn't us the one deciding. It was him who chooses. And he knows us even better than ourselves. He knows that we struggle. He knows that we have a lot of flaws and mistakes. And even though he saw something in you and me And that's something. It was the only thing that he saw in order to decide to call you and me and to be a chosen one. You know, sometimes we believe that we need to be perfect in order to be a chosen one. And we are so imperfect. But we need to remember that even though that in those imperfections, we are being called in order to walk in the way that is driving us to perfection. Yahushua was speaking a parable that somehow is beautifully mentioning this truth. And we find it in the book of Luke, chapter 14, verse 16. And it says the following: "But he said to him, a certain man gave a great supper and invited many. And he sent his servant at supper time to say to those who were invited, 'Come, for all is now ready.' But one by one they all began making excuses. The first said to him, 'I have bought a field and I need to go and see it. I ask you to have me excused.' And another said, 'I have bought 5 yoke of oxen and I am going to try them out. I ask you to have me excused.' And another said, 'I have married a wife, and because of this I am unable to come.' And that servant came and reported this to his master. Then the master of the house, being wroth, said to his servant, 'Hurry out into the streets and lanes of the city, and bring in here the poor and the crippled and the lame and blind.' And the servant said, 'Master, it is done as you commanded, and still there is room.' And the master said to the servant, 'Go out into the street, corners and hedges, and compel them to come in, so that my house is filled. For I say to you, that none of those men who were invited shall taste my supper.'" We are those poor, we are those blind, we are those crippled and lame, that the master of the house was so compassionate to take us and choose us in order to be part of his house. The previous one, the one that were invited, they decided not to take the invitation and despise the invitation of the master. But he gave us the opportunity and shows you, even in the middle of our imperfections, our flaws and our struggles, he sent the servants in order to take them out of the street of darkness. We are now those servants, even in our imperfection, even in our flaws and our struggles. We are those chosen people and servants that we are being sent to the streets now in order to take those one in darkness and bring them to the light of the kingdom of Yah. It's just a matter for us to remember the forefathers. The forefathers, we tend to believe that they didn't struggle. And they did. Just let's think in Abraham. He was called by Elohim. And he had many serious situations. Let's remember what happened with Sarah and Pharaoh. What happened with the story of Hagar and Ishmael. It was true life struggles in the same way that we struggle every day in our lives. But in one moment, Yahuwah appeared to him and he said, "I am El Shaddai. Walk before me and be perfect." It was the invitation and the calling of Abraham to walk side by side with Yahuwah in the way of perfection. Even in the midst of the imperfection and struggle of life, Yahuwah called him and chose him and called him to the way of perfection. The same thing we see with Jacob. Jacob suffered all his life between the struggles of Rachel and Leah. We saw that just the father-in-law was persecuting him, that his brothers-in-law were not loving him somehow. He ran away from home running away in order to save his life because his brother wanted to kill him. Even with family struggles, when some of his children sold out Joseph and they lied to him saying that the Joseph was dead. Real life struggles. But even though in those imperfections and flaws, Yahweh chose Jacob and called him to serve him. The same thing is applicable to us, and we can go on with different stories with Moshe, with David, and many others, that they were struggling, they were imperfect people, because there's no one, not even one, it says in the scripture. But we are being called out of the world in order to walk in the way of perfection. And sometimes, we victimize ourselves so much and without of our capacities. But we need to remember, Yahushua saw something in you, and that's why he chose you out of the world. That's why we are the true chosen one. That's why we are the true chosen one of Yahuwah. In the book of Devarim, chapter 7, it's also said in the verse 7, Yahuwah did not set his love on you, nor choose you, because you were more numerous than any other people, for you were the least of all peoples. You see, the parable of Yahushua is going so aligned in harmony with this word. He didn't choose us because we were the best of the best, because we were perfect in any ways. No, he chose us because he loved us since the foundation of the world. We need to remember and we need to respect that calling. It's a blessing that Yahuwah gave us by choosing you and me. We are his chosen people in this generation. He has called us for a purpose, and we need to fulfill that purpose, that calling, to bear the fruit and go into the world, to be a priest into the nations, to be a light in this world. Let's not victimize ourselves. Let's remember, and let's respect and obey his voice, and let's respect that calling. It is written in the Psalms 119, verse 1, Blessed are the perfect in the way, who walk in the Torah of Yahuwah. Even in our imperfection, he has called us into his way. And if we walk in his way, we are going to be perfect. He called us in imperfection, and he is going to give us perfection at the end. It's just a matter for us to have the right attitude. How Abraham and how all the forefathers that were imperfect and struggling in life gave us a lesson. Because, if we victimize ourselves and we see the situations that we need to live and somehow we get trapped in those situations, we are not following their steps. What they did and what was different in them, that's what we need to do. Is that even though of their imperfections, even though they were suffering, even though that they were struggling in life sometimes, they had the determination in their hearts. They had the faith and the love for Yahuwah in order to continue pushing forward into perfection, in order to continue pushing forward and understanding that they were being called by him and they were being chosen by him. The determination of the heart. So we should not look into our imperfections. We should not look into our strugglings. We should look into the determination of our hearts and the faith that he has deposited in each one of us, and in the love we have for him in order to continue pushing forward, fulfilling our calling, and walking into His perfect light. What we have to do is to just to remember that time that we decided, and to understand that it was Him calling us, choosing us, to remember the purpose and the calling we have in our hearts, not victimizing ourselves. Instead of that, having that determination and that faith and love in our hearts in order to continue till the end, in order to endure until the end, because it is said that, it is like the light of dawn that is increasing by the time until the day is perfect. And we know that day is going to be perfect when Yahushua is going to be here. And we know that that day is soon. So are we going to wait? Are we going to continue waiting to remember our true identity, our true calling? If we continue waiting, it could be too late. This is the time for this generation to wake up from the dust, to wake up from the noise of this world, and to remember our identity and to fulfill our purpose. We need to have the mind of Yahushua. Having the mind of Yahushua, we are always going to remember. So, you are the chosen one. You and me are the true chosen one, calling for a purpose. Let's make sure that we fulfill that purpose and that we remember that we are His people. Yahuwah be with you all. See you in the next video.